Okay, sixth grade. So I don't want to talk too long in this video because I know a lot of you are still coloring, but I do want to show you a little bit of what you could try to accomplish once you do get the coloring done. So I've got my top corner there. I did the background. Remember, we want to do the background first. That usually is the most tedious job, all right? But I also put some of my letters in there as well. So a couple things. When I start going here and I'm shading in and I'm trying to use small pencil lines, sometimes I might lose the letter. It's kind of faded in there. So I have to start to make some decisions on whether I want the background to be a little darker and faded in or if I want the letter itself. All right. So I'm going to go with a little bit of the background just so that it shows up and you see I'm rotating it. Sometimes I'll even take a ruler to help guide me a little bit. I can keep it kind of near the edge, keeps my lines a little straighter, and I'm just kind of shading within that space. So I think I want to do this edge right here, looks kind of faded. So I'm not necessarily outlining it, I'm just trying to get a darker tone of the background, and then I need to fade that into that background, but that's starting to come out pretty nicely. Now, when I was working on my letters, you have several different sides to your letters. You know, I've got the two sides here, I've got the front, and then I've got inside as well. So I actually put a little red in here, and then I took a little black and just lightly went over it, and it darkened it up pretty good, but I wanted these two to be different. So we want to be able to tell the difference between the sides. And so I did a little red, and I'm doing a little shading now. I'm going to use that ruler to kind of give me a nice crisp line there. And I'm just kind of lightly pressing on there to get some of that shadowing to work. Now my camera on the screen, it doesn't look so nice. It looks a lot better in person, I can tell you that much. But I think just because it's got some different lighting on it. So I'm just kind of cleaning up my lines a little bit, trying not to outline. That one's pretty hard outline there. I'm going to have to try to blend that out just a little bit. Just lightly fade that. Anyway, so once we get all of this colored, then what we're going to want to do is we definitely want something that's going to be near the edge so I don't get stuff all over the table. Might even zoom in a little bit on some of this here. All right. And so then we just need just a little bit of water. I don't have very much in there, and I'm just going to pick the right size brush. So I don't want to soak this paper, but it will start to warp a little bit because that's what paper does when it gets wet. So I'm just going to start to run this all over the background, and I don't want to go straight over all of my letters. I want to just carefully go around them. And I got a paper towel here too. I can knock off some of that water. But I'm just kind of working around. So if you notice you get, oh man, I had a bunch of water there. So I'm going to use that throughout quite a bit of this area. And if you leave a little bit of a line, it won't bleed into those other things. But once you start to let a little bit of water onto other areas, it will start to take one color and go into the next. So, and you can go in different directions. Now, when you're working this, if you start to get little bitty dots, they'll look little black dots, you're going to want to stop doing that area because it's starting to bring up the paper is what's happening. So I'm just kind of taking some light water, and I want to be careful around the edges of my letters. But like I said, you don't want to do a wet area next to another wet area or they will bleed together and you won't be able to tell. So I may work on this, and then as I come back around, it dries pretty quickly. I might be able to go into my letters and go from there. All right. And even this, you can see that I've got just a little bit of color along here, but I'm going to take that and just kind of blend it into my paper because I can take that color and use it, even though I didn't color. Oop, I got a little bit on my plane there. Even though I didn't color this area, I can take the color from where I was at. Got to slow down a little bit. I'm going a little too fast. Anyway, So I'm going to work that color. Now, like I said, I'm going to let this dry a little bit. But then I would go in, and actually I can probably do this center. So I think I'm going to have to change brushes, get something a little smaller. But again, I'm only going to pick one space, and I think I'm going to go with the dark area. So probably should have got something just a little bit smaller. But I'm going to work in here. But now I can't really do the other side because I don't want them to bleed together. All right. And then again, like this has several sides to it. So I may do this bottom piece and just kind of going. And you don't need a whole lot of water to make a lot of this happen here. So it's a little darker up top here, and then it kind of fades as it comes down. And then if I work inside of here a little bit, I can blend it a little bit. All right. And so that's what you're going to be doing once you get your coloring done. All right. So I'm not going to talk too much longer here, but just take your time. I would not put a wet picture back in your folder. All right. I would make sure your name, your first hour teacher's name is on the back, and we'll set that on the counter to dry. But you should have a nice watercolor painting when we're all done for Miss Ponton's project here. All right. And so as long as we can distinguish between our sides and our background and they're not all blending together, just take your time. Like I said, finish that coloring, and then there'll be some water cups and brushes available to you. All right, so good luck. If I believe we're going to work one more class period on this, so if you get your coloring done, you might be able to go right to water from there. Otherwise, we will see you guys next week. All right, thank you.